A Golar ship has been docked in Spain and is soon ready to leave the shipyard. The market has picked up. Commercial department in Oslo sees the possibility of getting the ship fixed immediately after departure.
They claim that she is ready to sail on Friday.
Okay.
The captain is new to Golar, and this will be his first trip with the company. He's been in command for the last week, making the ship ready for departure. People from Golar's technical department have been on board during the yard stay. At the end of the docking period, they've seen some work that must be done, preferably before departure. However, the commercial department is very eager to get the ship trading as soon as possible. The technical department representatives and the captain discuss the possibility of reaching the deadline. Captain is stressed by the commercial aspect, but finally goes along with the planned schedule and agrees that the rest of the work can be done during the voyage.
Okay. We need to do more people on the job.
The on-signing chief engineer should have been on board 2 days before departure, but due to family problems, he's been delayed. Nevertheless, he arrives at the shipyard only a few hours before the ship's departure. He's accompanied by 3 Filipino ratings. Due to delays in air traffic, they've been traveling for more than 24 hours when they sign on.
Hello. Oh, hello, nice to see you.
How are you?
Welcome on board.
Good,
Good, always good.
How is the life?
Perfect.
The scheduled handover from the off-signing chief engineer is therefore very short and limited. The ship will sail from Ferrol in the afternoon, and everything must be ready before departure.
Oh, my friend, all the papers are signed, everything. So we see you in 3 months?
Okay, I see you.
A riding squad who are due to do some repair work on the Rega skids on deck arrives on board the ship just hours before the ship leaves the yard. Since everybody is stressed and eager to get everything ready for unmooring, the riding squad gets no attention from the ship's management when they arrive.
Whole crew is aware, pilot is on
The
the
chief
way.
officer has picked one of the new ratings to be at the helm. The rating has not been a helmsman before, and he needs the experience. He appears on the bridge, takes his position well before the sailing starts.
Morning. So you will be helmsman? Pilot.
The captain's not met him before and makes no effort to make the helmsman part of the bridge team. As the pilot arrives, the crew is ready for departure. The helmsman is very tense, since the captain seems to be stressed and uncomfortable with the pilots. They seem to lack interest in going through the passage plan. In addition, they are talking to each other and with the tugs in Spanish. A couple of hours after departure, the pilots leave the ship. Shortly afterwards, the captain gives the helmsman an order concerning a change of course. The captain is tense and stressed, and the helmsman has not heard his order precisely. The captain turns to his present chief officer and orders him to get a new helmsman.
Wilson. Okay, I will do it.
Yes, chief, Wilson, go ahead.
Starboard 20.
The chief officer has not been sailing with the captain before and feels uncomfortable with the situation.
Helmsman, the most experienced helmsman on the bridge.
So he dismisses the helmsman and calls for a more experienced rating.
Thank you. Easy to 10.
Welcome, chief.
The episode is discussed amongst the crew later that night.
Starboard, pero hindi ko na kasunod yung kama niya.
In the engine room, the second engineer has noticed that something is wrong with the high-pressure turbine. The instruments signal vibrations, but due to instrument troubles in the past, the engine crew are not sure how to interpret the situation. The second engineer brings it up with the new chief engineer, and they agree that they should ask for a service engineer and let him investigate and check the instruments and the turbine when passing Gran Canaria Islands. The captain has a Western European cultural background. He's very loyal to what he believes to be the company culture. He wants to make a good impression. He's authoritative, wants to be known as a leader who gets things done both on time and within budget. When the matter with the turbine is mentioned, he's not happy with the situation. The captain asks the chief engineer if he thinks they can proceed for loading in Nigeria. The chief engineer says that he would prefer to have a service engineer on board. The ship's own crew is not able to carry out this type of work, and it needs to be checked as soon as possible. But the recently appointed chief engineer never feels comfortable opposing authorities. He's not a man who gets into arguments, so he listens to his captain and agrees to what he's saying. The two men in the riding squad enter the captain's office to discuss the planned job at the Rega skids on deck and ask for more crew to perform the operation. But as the captain is now occupied with the turbine problems, he tells the riding squad off in a rather harsh way, ordering them to arrange it with the chief officer and to get it done as soon as possible.
Hi, Wilson.
The same morning, a short safety meeting is held between the chief officer and the bosun. They go through the work tasks of the deck crew. There are still a few tasks to be performed that were not finished before they left the yard, and they discuss the schedule for getting it all done. They agree to postpone some of the work since the deck crew are tired after a long flight to the shipyard.
One guy is enough. And then paint store, arrange a little bit the paint and clean.
A little later, the riding squad enter the chief officer's office, telling him that the captain has ordered the job on deck to be finished as soon as possible. The chief officer, who did not consider the job to be urgent, now feels under pressure. He replies that he will order some ratings to take care of it immediately.
Okay, I will give you more people.
Thanks, sir.
An AB and an OS are having a last cup of coffee before heading for their cabins, tired from being awake for a long time. Since the unfinished job was only discovered after that morning's safety meeting, the chief officer goes to look for the only available crew he has.
We have some more work to be done on deck, so...
He finds the two deckhands and instructs them to complete the work at the Rega skids, despite not having rested.
Get your boiler suit.
Because it's the chief officer that instructs them, they don't dare to raise any objections. They get started despite being fatigued. When the two deckhands arrive at the work site, the two men from the riding squad are already there.
Good. Just continue, huh? These two guys will help you and try to finish this job.
The OS discovers that the AB has forgotten his hard hat. But one of the guys from the riding squad tells him not to waste more time, just get the job done. The riding squad have not had any familiarization or in any other way been introduced to the vessel's safety regime. Neither a risk assessment nor a toolbox talk has been done before the work starts. But the deckhands never speak up about this matter. The ship is sailing in open sea with wind coming from ahead. The sea is moderate. The captain receives voyage orders from the operation department. The ship is requested to proceed to Bonny, Nigeria, for loading. The operation department urges the master to confirm as soon as possible, since the ship must arrive in Bonny within 8 days to get the cargo.
And confirm same by mail after the telephone call.
Okay, I will confirm in 10 minutes. Thank you. I want to inform you we have Problem with high pressure turbine.
When the captain calls back to the head office to confirm the voyage orders, he brings up the issue of the unstable turbine measurements.
If possible, when passing Canary Island.
Okay, Captain. Then we just have to because this is very urgent, so we have to finalize the deal, and which we will do now. And the service engineer.
He requests a service engineer when the ship passes the Canary Islands. The commercial department brings the issue up with the technical management. They discuss whether the reported incident can be a real turbine problem or just instrument trouble. The technical manager confirms that the ship has had problems with instrument errors before, and they therefore reach the conclusion that it's possibly the same thing this time.
Hello, Captain.
After the meeting, the technical department calls the captain, who's now under intense pressure from the office.
Instrument indications before on that turbine without any real reason. Do we know it's really real?
They inform him of the instrument problems experienced earlier and say that it's probably the same thing happening again.
Service engineer on board in Canary Island on the way to Bonny is very...
The captain is also told that a service engineer cannot embark at Gran Canary due to possible immigration problems in Nigeria.
I agree with you, huh?
The office promises that the service engineer will be made available on arriving in Brazil.
Only in Brazil, huh?
The master finally decides to agree with the office people and is convinced that it's an instrument error that causes the problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
He does not inform the chief engineer that the service engineer will not attend before they reach Brazil. The second engineer believes that the situation with the high-pressure turbine is getting worse than before. On his own, he checks the turbine and the instruments once again, and is convinced that it's not an instrument error, but a real problem that's causing the vibrations. The second engineer tells the chief engineer what he has observed and wants his superior to agree with him. But the chief engineer feels opposed by his subordinate and feels that he'll be losing authority if he brings this further to the captain. Consequently, he tells the second engineer off in a rather harsh manner, thinking that the service people will be on board at Gran Canary. When visiting the galley later that day, the second engineer takes out his frustrations on the galley crew. He complains about the food and says he's sick and tired of being served the same food every day.
Always chicken on this ship.
At noon, while planning for the new voyage instructions, the second officer checks the weather forecast and discovers that they can expect a heavy rain cloud anytime soon. He tries to get hold of the bosun to inform him about the weather they're expecting.
Bosun, bridge calling to read me.
But when the bosun doesn't reply, the second officer just ignores these important weather reports and continues with his work. The chief officer, who ordered the job at the Regas skids, is under the impression that everything is under control and decides to take a couple of hours sleep before going on watch again in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the weather conditions get worse, with a storm cloud coming up, and the AB and the Regas skids calls the bosun to discuss whether to postpone the job due to the weather conditions. The bosun tries to get hold of the chief officer, but since he's sleeping, the bosun decides not to disturb him, nor does he inform anyone else about the difficulties with the Regas skids operation. The bosun wants to make a good impression on his superiors by getting the job done efficiently and instructs the deckhands to keep on before the weather gets even worse. On the bridge, the second officer orders a change of course to stay clear of an approaching ship. As a result, the waves hit the ship from the side. A breaker causes a sudden swaying. In the Regas skids, the AB falls. is seriously injured.
Please confirm, Chief. He's seriously injured. Okay, copy. Thank you. Finisterre traffic, Spanish Coast Guard, Polar Winter calling, please.
The course is changed to put the ship in position for helicopter transfer for the wounded AB, and full ahead is ordered. One hour later, the noise from the turbine suddenly increases, and then the engine suddenly stops. The engine breakdown takes valuable time. As a result, the helicopter getting the injured AB to hospital is delayed. When the helicopter finally arrives, the AB is unconscious. On arrival at the hospital in Spain, he's declared dead. In the crisis management room in Gola's office in Oslo, the message is received, and one man has to make that final call.